If you own a Nintendo Switch 2 and have no idea where to start, these are the 25 best games you need to be playing right now in July 2026. Starting at number 1, Mario Kart World is the game that basically sold the Switch 2 to millions of people, and honestly, it deserved to. This is the first open-world Mario Kart, and it completely changes how the whole franchise feels. You race across a massive connected map with 24 racers, wild new abilities, and what many fans are already calling the best Rainbow Road ever made. It has sold over 14 million copies for a reason. Coming in at number 2, Donkey Kong Bananza is the kind of game that makes you stop and just stare at it for a second before you start smashing everything in sight. DK can tear through nearly every surface in the environment, opening up paths, throwing chunks of terrain at enemies, and teaming up with a young Pauline who brings her own abilities to the mix. It is a physics-driven platformer unlike anything Nintendo has released in years, and it runs beautifully on the hardware. Number 3 on this list is Pokemon Pokopia, which caught a lot of people off guard with just how good it turned out to be. You play as a Ditto living among hundreds of Pokemon in a blocky, buildable world that blends Animal Crossing with Minecraft in the most charming way possible. The customization runs deep, the story has genuine emotional weight, and the cozy loop of improving your habitat will pull you in for dozens of hours without warning. Right at number 4, we have Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, a game that Switch 2 owners were waiting on for years and that absolutely delivered when it finally arrived. Samus returns in a full-scale first-person adventure packed with alien atmosphere, layered environments, and the kind of slow-burn tension that made the original Prime so legendary. Whether you are a longtime fan or completely new to the series, this one is essential, and it has a Nintendo Switch 2 Edition upgrade that makes it look stunning in docked mode. Number 5 is Kirby Air Riders, the surprise sequel to a 2003 GameCube cult classic that almost nobody saw coming. Designed by Masahiro Sakurai himself, this racing game brings the chaotic energy of Smash Bros. To a completely different genre. The one-button control scheme is deceptively strategic, the multiplayer is pure chaos in the best way, and the game has that specific Nintendo quality where everything just feels good to interact with, even on a basic level. At number 6, Hades 2 earned a rare perfect score from Game Informer, and currently holds a 95 on Metacritic, making it one of the highest-rated games on the entire platform. Playing as Millennium instead of Zagreus gives the sequel its own identity immediately, and the new biomes, expanded weapon set, and richer narrative make every run feel worthwhile. Supergiant Games somehow improved on a formula that already felt impossible to improve, and the Switch 2 version runs flawlessly. Number 7 goes to Resident Evil Requiem, arguably the biggest third-party game of 2026 on any Nintendo console so far. Capcom built this one specifically with the Switch 2 in mind, and it shows in every cutscene and every encounter. You switch between FBI analyst Grace Ashcroft and the returning Leon S. Kennedy, and the way their two gameplay styles contrast makes the pacing feel dynamic and constantly engaging. Horror fans have been losing their minds over this one all year. Coming in at number 8, Hollow Knight Silksong is the long-awaited sequel that finally arrived in 2025 and has continued to dominate conversation well into 2026. You play as Hornet in a completely new kingdom built on Silk and Song, with new movement mechanics, a massive new cast, and the kind of brutally satisfying combat the original was known for. It currently sits at a 91 on Metacritic and has held its position as one of the most discussed games on the platform for months. Number 9 is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, running in its Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which upgrades the entire experience to 60 frames per second with noticeably improved visuals. If you played this on the original Switch, coming back to it here feels like a genuinely different game. The scale of Hyrule, the creativity of the building system, and the sheer density of things to discover all hit harder when the frame rate is buttery smooth and the resolution is sharper for Alp. At number 10, Sektori is the kind of game that sneaks up on you and refuses to let go. It is a fast, aggressive twin-stick shooter built around pounding techno music that syncs with the action in ways that make the whole experience feel more like a performance than a game. It currently holds a 94 on Metacritic and has been mentioned in the same breath as Resident Evil Requiem when Switch 2 fans argue about the best releases of the year so far. Number 11 is Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, which brings one of the most beloved strategy RPGs ever made to a new generation, with updated visuals and some worthwhile new additions. The original design is so well constructed that it holds up completely even now, and being able to play it portably on the Switch 2 is exactly where a game like this belongs. Game Informer called it one of the must-play titles on the platform, and if you have never experienced the world of Avilis, this is the perfect entry point. Coming in at number 12, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment fills the gap between launch window titles with exactly the kind of action-heavy Warriors gameplay that fans of the Zelda timeline lore have been craving. You fight through the events leading into Tears of the Kingdom, and the Switch 2 handles the massive on-screen enemy counts without breaking a sweat. It is not trying to reinvent anything, but as a polished and visually impressive game that connects to one of the best Zelda stories in years, it delivers completely. Number 13 is Star Fox, a cinematic reimagining of Star Fox 64 that gives the entire franchise a gorgeous new look and feel. The character designs are overhauled, every stage has been rebuilt with modern detail, the dialogue is fully voiced, and the orchestral soundtrack makes barrel rolls feel genuinely epic. For anyone who grew up on the N64 original, this is an emotional and visually exciting return. And for new players, it is simply one of the best-looking Switch 2 exclusives on the shelf right now. At number 14, Mina the Hollower comes from the creators of Shovel Knight and runs at 120 frames per second on the Switch 2, which is a detail that says everything about how much care went into this version. The game is a top-down action-adventure with tight combat, deep secrets, and a haunting visual style that balances nostalgia with modern design sensibility. It ran a long development cycle, and the result feels considered and complete in a way that a lot of games do not. Number 15 is Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which finally made its way to Nintendo hardware and instantly became one of the strongest RPG arguments for owning a Switch 2. The Intergrade edition includes the full main story plus additional content, and the ability to experience a game of this cinematic scale in handheld mode is exactly what the platform was made for. If you missed it on PlayStation, this is the version to play, and it looks and runs better than most people expected. Coming in at number 16, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition is one of those ports that genuinely surprises you when you see it running on a handheld. Night City is enormous, the storytelling is dense and mature, and the optional mouse controls made possible by the Joy-Con 2 add a precision to combat and exploration that feels purposely designed. The Ultimate Edition includes all expansions, so you are getting the complete version of a game that took years to fully realize its potential. Number 17 is Pragmata, a Capcom sci-fi action game built on the RE engine that has been turning heads since its launch earlier in 2026. You follow Hugh and Diana through a striking futuristic setting with puzzle-driven combat that rewards thinking over button mashing. Nintendo Life described it as another showcase for what Capcom's engine can do on Switch 2 hardware, and the chemistry between the two leads gives it an emotional core that most action games skip entirely. At number 18, Pokémon Legends ZA brings the open-world Pokémon Legends format into the streets of Lumio City with a complete urban redesign. It currently sits as one of the top 5 best-selling Nintendo games on the platform, and the shift from wilderness to city exploration gives the whole experience a completely different rhythm. Combined with the ongoing series momentum from Pokopia, 2026 has become one of the best years to be a Pokémon fan in a long time. Number 19 is Mario Tennis Fever, which takes the Switch 2's Joy-Con 2 motion controls and builds a full tennis experience around them that works far better than the concept sounds on paper. The motion responsiveness is noticeably improved over anything on the original Switch. Online play is smooth, and the roster of characters and courts gives the game enough variety to stay interesting well beyond the first few hours. It is the kind of Nintendo sports game that is easy to pick up and genuinely hard to put down. Coming in at number 20, Tomodachi Life Living the Dream is the long-awaited sequel to a game that had an enormous cult following on Nintendo 3DS, and it delivers that same strange, delightful energy in a fully modern package. You manage a cast of Mii characters living on a tiny island, and the completely unpredictable behavior they exhibit is endlessly entertaining. The Nintendo Life team specifically called it out as a celebration of Nintendo's weird experimental side, and it brings genuine warmth to the Switch 2 library. Number 21 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the middle chapter of Square Enix's ambitious trilogy remake, which hit Switch 2 in June 2026 as one of the biggest third-party debuts of the month. The open-world structure is far more expansive than Remake, and the chemistry between Cloud and his companions carries the emotional weight of what is already one of the most beloved stories in gaming history. Running it portably on Switch 2 hardware without compromise was described as a statement of intent for the platform. Number 23 is Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, which arrives on July 30 with a new action battle mode, additional Blade content, and redesigned equipment for Pyra and Mithra. The 2017 JRPG was already a beloved entry in the series, and these Switch 2 editions give fans who played the original a real reason to return, while giving new players the definitive way to experience it. With Xenoblade Genesis on the horizon, this is a perfect way to catch up on the timeline. Coming in at number 24, Shadow Labyrinth is a Switch 2 exclusive that takes the Pac-Man universe and pulls it in a dramatically darker direction, with exploration-driven gameplay, atmospheric level design, and a tone nothing like what you would expect from that IP. It was a genuine surprise when it was revealed, and it has maintained strong buzz throughout 2026 as one of the more unexpected and bold experiments in Nintendo's lineup this year. For players who want something that defies categorization, this is the one. And at number 25, Adventures of Elliot: The Millennium Tales is Square Enix's HD 2D JRPG that arrived in June 2026, alongside Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and held its own impressively despite the competition. The real-time combat system sets it apart from traditional HD 2D titles, and the visual presentation, layering pixel art characters over three-dimensional environments, looks stunning on the Switch 2 screen. For JRPG fans who want a complete story-driven experience in the handheld format, this is one of the best options on the platform right now.